God is faithful to his word is the first thing, and I want to emphasize that this Bible, how many here have a Bible? Would you lift it up? Oh, it's too heavy. Oh, okay, good. You got a Bible. You know why you have a Bible? It's because it's God's holy word. Every word here is true from beginning to end. There are no falsehoods here. There are no disguises. There are no deceptions in the Word of God. God's Word is true, and we need to believe it. I want to think of us this morning as though we are putting God on trial, and God's faithfulness is in question. And so enter into the courtroom, and let's bring forth the evidence of whether God is faithful or not. And let's look at the accusations, and let's look at the facts of Scripture to see whether God is faithful. The first witness against or for the faithfulness of God is found in Genesis in chapter 3. Remember, God created Adam and Eve, and he put them in the Garden of Eden, and he said it's very good, and everything was wonderful, and everything was smooth and good sailing. And God said, there's a tree in the garden that you are not to eat from. And the day that you do, you will die. That's a promise from God. The day that you do, you will die. And then the serpent, Satan, disguised as a serpent, came to Eve and deceived her and said, God lied. God is deceiving you. He didn't really mean what he said. God was fooling you. He was teasing you. God knows the day that you eat of that fruit, you're going to be like God. Your eyes are going to go open and you're going to see good and evil, just like God. He deceived Eve. Now, some of us look at it and say, no, he was telling the truth. He was telling the truth. If they ate that fruit, their eyes would be open and they would see good and evil. And so it happened. Eve took that fruit and she bit into it, she ate it, and she gave it to Adam. And Adam goes, oh, whatever my wife tells me to do, I do. So he takes it and he eats of the fruit, and suddenly their eyes are open and they realize they're naked, and they also realize they just sinned against the Lord God Almighty, and they hid themselves in the garden. And the Lord comes in the cool of the day, as he always did, to fellowship with them, and he says, Adam, where are you? Of course, God knew where Adam was, but he wanted Adam to admit it. And finally, Adam pops his head out from behind a tree and says, I'm here, but I was ashamed because I was naked. And God says, who told you you were naked? Did you eat of the fruit I told you not to eat from? Of course, God already knew that, but he's asking him to confess. And so Adam says, it's not my fault. It's my wife's fault. He pointed the finger to Eve, and Eve goes, it's not my fault. The devil made me do it. See how he passed the buck. But God held them accountable for what they did, and they sinned against the Lord, and they disobeyed his command. And the Lord said, and you will surely die, as I spoke. The day that you ate of that fruit, you would die. And from that day to the day of their death, they were in the process of dying. And one day they died, and they left this earth. And God says, this is the punishment for the sin. So the question is in our jury, as we investigate whether God was truthful or not, who was truthful? Was the devil truthful? Or was God truthful? As I evaluate that and look at it seriously, God always tells the truth. He cannot lie. It's not of his nature to lie. It is impossible for God to lie. God told the absolute truth that the day that they eat of that fruit, they would die. If you've never read the apocryphal book called The Story of Adam and Eve, I encourage you to do it. It's not biblical. It's not a biblical book of the Bible, but it is a historical novel written many centuries ago that describes the emotional devastation of Adam and Eve after they ate of that fruit and after they were expelled from the garden. It is an emotional and a powerful novel that describes the separation from God. And Adam called it the living death. I died the day I ate of that fruit. What a testimony of God's faithfulness and God's truthfulness. God does not lie.